everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you are wondering where I've been for the past few months, well, let's just say that life took an amazing detour. After my last adventure ride around Sulawesi, I decided it was time for a different kind of journey, so I went off and got married. After that, my wife and I took off to Canada for an incredible honeymoon. But as much as I loved it, minus 20 degrees Celsius isn't my idea of a good time, so I'm glad to have made it back to the warm tropics here in Indonesia, where I can finally get back on two wheels. I'm thrilled to be back, and I'm back with a vengeance and a brand new machine. TVS Ronin TD 225cc. Before going any further, don't forget to click like and to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done it. And also stick around until the end when I'll give you my impressions of my new bike so far. Now, some of you might be asking, TVS Ronin? What's a TVS? Who are they? Well, if you're not from India or Indonesia, you might not realize that these guys are absolute giants. TVS is currently the fourth largest motorcycle manufacturer in the world. I mean, we're talking about a company that produces over 5 million bikes a year, and they export to 80 countries. Still not familiar? Well, they are actually the ones making the BMW's 310cc lineup, like the 310R, the 310GS, and the 310RR. Also, they've just recently bought the legendary British motorcycle brand Norton, and they started production on a few models. When I saw all of this, I knew there was some world-class engineering behind the Ronin, and they have a factory right here in Indonesia as well, in Karawang near Jakarta. So, why did I choose the TVS Ronin TD 225? Let's break down some key categories to see what the Ronin has to offer. Let's look at the price. First of all, the Ronin comes in at a very competitive price point. Right here in Indonesia, it's 40 million rupiahs, which is below many of its direct competitors. It's less than 2,500 USD for a 225cc motorbike. That makes it incredible value for money. But more than that, I've watched many review videos from India, which often compares the TVS Ronin against the Royal Enfield Hunter 350. Now, the Hunter 350 is in a totally different price category here in Indonesia because there's a luxury tax imposed on motorbikes over 250. But surprisingly, in India, both the Ronin and the Royal Enfield Hunter are in the same price range. Also, if I look at the reviews, well, in most videos I've watched, the Ronin fares very well next to the Royal Enfield. That makes it a really, really good value. Next thing I want to talk about is the weight. I was kind of surprised to see that the Ronin at 160 kilograms is one of the heaviest in its class. Mind you, it's about the same as a CRF 250 Rally, and it's much lighter than the Royal Enfield Hunter 350. Apparently, that's because it's built with heavy-duty materials. Where other bikes might have many plastic parts, the Ronin has steel fenders and a huge metal tank, and it's built on thick, robust iron or steel frame and swing arm. It also comes standard with a factory-fitted crash guard, which I really like. And the amazing Showa big piston upside-down forks also adds quite a bit of weight. Now let's talk about the height. The seat height is about average at 795 millimeter. This might seem a bit high, but after a year riding my modified Ninja, which felt very tall after the ADV mods I put on her, I find it nice to be able to plant my feet flat on the ground when I stop. Let's have a look at the features. Like, one of the most surprising features for me was the ABS brakes. The Ronin is the only bike in this category in Indonesia that offers full front and rear ABS brakes. And for me, it's my first bike with ABS. The Ronin also comes packed with features like a fully digital instrument cluster, glide-through technology, they call that GTT, I'll tell you about it later, and adjustable levers, things that you usually find on more premium bikes. Now, let's talk about performance. The first thing you'll notice is the tank size. The Ronin has a very respectable tank size at 14 liters. And with an average of 40 kilometers per liter, it promises quite a good range. around 500 kilometers on a tank, which is excellent for those longer rides. And to me, that's a really big deal. My Ninja 250 only had an 11-liter tank, and while the original Suzuki Thunder 250 was quite generous with 15 liters, after Rosie's Brat-style facelift, I was left with only 10 liter. So I'm quite happy with 14 liters. Another aspect was power and torque. Well, here the Ronin actually does very well with one of the best power-torque combo among all the bikes in its categories. First of all, for its class, it's got a quite respectable 20 horsepower at 7,750 RPMs, which is really all that is needed to ride around Indonesia's cities and roads. The big winner for me, though, was the low-end torque. It's got 19.93 Newton meters of torque at 3,750 RPMs. Low-end torque basically means how much push the bike has at low speeds. In Indonesia, this is a game changer for a few reasons. First of all, there's that stop and go that you're going to encounter in Jakarta or Surabaya traffic, or even just when riding through small towns on market day. You're constantly crawling at low speeds. High-revving bikes like the Ninja get hot and jumpy. The Ronin just glides easily. The second thing is mountain riding. If you're touring to Bromo or through the twisties of Toraja, you're often stuck behind a slow truck on a steep hill. On a high-revving bike like the Ninja, if you get stuck like that, you have to kick down 2 or 3 gears just to overtake. It's exhausting. It's stressful. But because the Ronin's peak torque hits at just 3,750 RPMs, it just pulls, even with panniers and a pillion on the back. You get less gear shifting, easy overtaking, and a cooler engine, which is always a good thing in the tropics. Another aspect is bad roads. On broken roads or gravel, and believe me, there are lots of those around here, you want slow, controlled power. Low-end torque lets you crawl through the rough stuff without having to keep the revs high and risk the rear wheel spinning out. So, in a nutshell, low-end torque means 1. Less gear shifting in traffic, great overtaking power in hills, and better fuel efficiency and cooler engine. Now, since you aren't screaming the engine at 10,000 RPMs just to move, you actually get better mileage on long trips. And low RPMs usually mean less heat. That's a big plus in tropical climates. In Indonesia, you don't need a bike that does 180 kilometers an hour. You need a bike that can get you, your gear, and your passenger over a mountain and around potholes without breaking a sweat. And that is exactly what this engine is built to do. A few other considerations I had when looking at the Ronin were, first, the resale value. Now, TVS is a newcomer to the Indonesian market, so of course, for now, anything Japanese like the Hondas, Suzukis, and Yamahas have a much stronger resale value. But I have no doubt that with its growing reputation in Indonesia, we could expect a good resale value for the TVS Ronin 225 down the line. Another thing was ease of service in Indonesia. With my old bikes like Rosie, the Suzuki Thunder 250, servicing the motorcycle was always a bit of a problem because the model's been discontinued for a long time, so parts are difficult to find, they're more expensive, and sometimes even finding a mechanic who would know how to fix it was a bit of an issue. My Kawasaki, I also had problems. You see, most Japanese dealers such as Yamaha, Suzuki, and Honda, they have huge networks of dealers here in Indonesia. With regards to Kawasaki, I noticed that during my last trip, dealers weren't in every area, and they tended to be quite expensive. What about the TVS? Well, I guess it's too early to tell, but they are expanding quite fast, and they are getting more and more of a presence across Indonesia, so that's kind of reassuring right now. Well, as promised, let's end with my first impression after riding it for a few weeks. First thing is comfort. Well, the suspension feels premium. It's way more comfortable than the Ninja ever was, and even smoother than the good old Rosie that I used to ride. I guess it's all thanks to the combination of big block tires, the Showa big piston upside down forks, and there's a 7-step adjustable monoshock at the rear. All of that makes it perfect for the creative Indonesian road surface. The saddle is also a huge win. It's wide, cushy and flat, and my wife actually enjoys being on the back of this one, which definitely wasn't the case with the Ninja. On the Ninja, she was usually perched up with her knees around her neck. On top of that, there's the GTT, glide-through technology I told you about. It's amazing. It lets you crawl at low speed in first, second or third gear without clutching in or revving up. It's kind of like a cruise control for traffic jams. And if this wasn't enough, the fact that I can easily adjust the clutch and the brake levers lets me find just the right spot for me so my hand won't get cramped up in the city. After watching Ryan F9 explaining that in most motorcycle accidents, the rider never even touched the brake for fear of sliding out of control, I actually wondered if that wasn't on my mind when I had my very own accident a few years back. Was I afraid to brake and lose control? Well, this is my first bike with ABS brakes, and I haven't had to do an emergency stop yet, but the dual channel ABS gives me so much more confidence than I had with old Rosie, or even with the Kawasaki Ninja. Now, I just need to force my mind to trust the brakes if I ever had to use them in an emergency. Now, if we talk about performance, I must say, this isn't quite as fast as the Kawasaki. I mean, let's face it, the Kawasaki was a racehorse. However, even though it's only 225cc, that low-end torque makes the acceleration feel instant, and it's there where you need it. I also haven't been out all that much, so I haven't been able to enjoy the massive gas tank and great range, but so far the 40 kilometers per liter sounds right. And I've been enjoying the DTE, the distance to end gauge on the digital instrument cluster. This tells me how many more kilometers I can do on what's left in my tank, so I found that quite useful. And the last bit is about looks. Overall, the look of this bike checks all the boxes. It looks rugged, but it's stylish. It's modern with a retro feel. It just fits. It's exactly like the bike I want to be seen on for my next adventure. And my wife likes it too, so we might even start touring together, which would make me very happy. Well, I'm still not 100% sure where or when my next big adventure will be, but at least now I know exactly how I'll get there. Thank you for watching, and it's good to be back. I hope we get to meet somewhere on the road, and until we do, like they say around here, sampai jumpa lagi.